Creepy-ass curse of the Festa Antiga. All right, listen up. This ain't my story, but it's a wild one about Isabella, a 17-year-old chick from São Paulo who got her whole life flipped upside down in one messed up night. Buckle up, 'cause this tale's gonna give you the chills big time. Isabella was your typical high school hotshot at Colegio Santa Maria. Killer grades, a smile that could charm the socks off anyone, dark curly hair, and these hazel eyes that just popped. Total vibe. One day after class, her crew, Clara, Lucas, and Sofia, were hyped about some weird-ass party called the Festa Antiga, out in the middle of nowhere in the Serra da Cantareira forests. Old school clothes, creepy rituals, the works. They got this sketchy invite card that just said, "Travel to the past." Isabella was like, sounds sus, but come on, who says no to a weird adventure? So that night, they all cram into Lucas's beat-up car. The dirt road's twisty as hell, snaking through the forest under this creepy moonlight. Isabella's rocking a long cream skirt and some frilly blouse, like she's in a period drama. Clara is strutting in a red dress that screams extra. Lucas is in some goofy vest and pants like he raided a costume shop. And Sofia's got this dark green gown that makes her look like she's about to haunt the woods. They pull up, and it's like they stepped into a freaking time machine. Wooden cabins, torches blazing, and drums pounding so hard, your chest feels it. The party's going off. In the middle of this crowd, there's this old lady with long white hair and eyes like black holes that suck you in. She's chanting some weird shit in Tupi, a language nobody gets. People with creepy wooden masks are dancing around a huge fire, moving all jerky like they're possessed puppets. Isabella feels this heavy vibe in the air, like a storm's about to hit. Clara's all pumped, grabbing her hand. "Yo, let's get closer." Isabella's not so sure, but tags along. Then the white-haired lady locks eyes with her and hisses, "You're the one." Isabella laughs it off, thinking it's some cheesy act. The lady hands her a bowl of this gross black liquid and says, "Drink up." Lucas, being a goof, goes, "Chug it, Izzy. Bet it's just funky juice." Isabella's hands are shaking, but she grabs the bowl. The stuff tastes like straight-up poison. The second it hits her throat, the world starts spinning. The drums fade, the torches go dark, and it's like the darkness just swallows her whole. When Isabella comes to, she's sprawled out on the cold forest floor. Her friends are there, but Clara's eyes are bugging out with fear. Lucas looks like he's seen a ghost, and Sofia's muttering, "This wasn't supposed to go down like this." Then, this creepy, deep voice echoes in Isabella's head, all growly and not human. "You're mine." From that night, her life's a total horror show. At first, it's little stuff. Whispers in her ear when she's alone. shadows zipping past her vision, nightmares that have her waking up screaming. In her dreams, she's stuck in this dark-ass forest with creatures that look like some messed-up mix of human and beast, and that damn voice keeps calling her name. Her folks thought she was just stressed from school. They tried therapists, pills, all that jazz. Nada. One day, mid-session, she starts screaming in some language she's never even heard, freaking everyone out. Her dad, who's super Catholic, is like, "Screw this, we're going to church." For 7 freaking years, Isabella was stuck with this thing inside her. And it wasn't just some random demon. It was old, like ancient, some kind of shadow from way before people even wrote shit down. They first tried to fix her at their local church in São Paulo, this chill stone building with stained glass windows that looked kinda hopeful. Father Enrique, this old priest with soft eyes but shaky hands, steps up with his beat-up Bible. He's splashing holy water, chanting exorcism prayers, trying to keep it together, even though you could tell he was spooked. But when he touches Isabella's forehead, she goes nuts. Her body's twisting like something out of a horror flick, limbs bending all wrong. This deep, nasty voice rips out of her. "She's mine. You can't have her." Every candle in the place snuffs out. The windows crack like they're screaming, and glass shards hit the floor. Enrique stumbles back, pale as a sheet, and mumbles, "This thing's way out of my league." They didn't quit, though. Her parents hauled her to every church they could find. In Rio, this slick priest named João tries a different vibe, using some old relics and prayers passed down forever. The church is packed, people whispering, all nervous. Isabella's strapped to a chair, her wrists bleeding from fighting the ropes. João's chanting, and her eyes go pitch black, like ink. The air stinks of sulfur, and the relic he's holding, a chunk of bone from some saint, catches fire in his hand. The crowd loses it, screaming, but João keeps going until Isabella spits at him, and the spit burns his skin like acid. Dude bolts out of the church and never comes back. They didn't quit though. Her parents hauled her to every church they could find. In Rio, this slick priest named João tries a different vibe, using some old relics and prayers passed down forever. The church is packed, people whispering, all nervous. Isabella's strapped to a chair, her wrists bleeding from fighting the ropes. João's chanting, and her eyes go pitch black, like ink. The air stinks of sulfur, and the relic he's holding, a chunk of bone from some saint, catches fire in his hand. The crowd loses it, screaming, but João keeps going until Isabella spits at him, and the spit burns his skin like acid. Dude bolts out of the church and never comes back. In Bahia, they hit up these priests who mix Catholic stuff with local rituals, hoping it'll do the trick. The ceremony's in this open-air chapel, palm trees swaying around it. The priests are burning herbs, smoke curling up into the night, chanting in Portuguese and Tupi. Isabella starts laughing, but it's not her laugh. It's low, evil, and wrong. The ground shakes like an earthquake's hitting. The head priest, this skinny guy named Carlos, slams a cross against her chest, but it melts into her skin, leaving a burnt mark. The other priests bail, saying this ain't no regular demon. It's tied to the land, old as dirt, and pissed off. Every time they tried to save her, the thing got stronger. Isabella's body was a wreck. Weird wounds would pop up at night, oozing black goo like tar, then vanish by morning. Her awesome hair turned thin and gray, her skin pale like she was already dead. She'd go weeks without talking, but when she did, it was in Tupi, a language she'd never studied. Her parents, totally broken, stuck her in an asylum outside São Paulo, a creepy place with barred windows and lights that flickered like they were haunted. The staff called her a menina amaldiçoada, the cursed girl. Shit in her room moved on its own, chairs sliding, mirrors cracking. One nurse swore she saw Isabella floating above her bed, head tilted weird, whispering to nobody. The asylum was no safe zone. One night, a fire broke out in her wing, no one knowing how. Another time, a mean nurse got found passed out, her arms scratched with claw marks. No clue who did it. Isabella's fits got worse. She'd scream for hours, her voice flipping between hers and the things. Or wake up covered in dirt like she'd been digging graves. She'd turn up miles away in forests or creepy-ass graveyards, feet bloody, no memory of how she got there. Her friends got screwed over too. Clara, who used to be all bubbly, fell into a deep depression, eaten up by guilt for dragging Isabella to that damn party. She locked herself in her house, eyes dead with fear. Lucas, the soccer stud, died in a freaky crash. His car swerved off a clear road into a tree locals said was cursed. Sophia, the nerdy one, went all in, trying to figure out the Tupi rituals, thinking she could save Isabella. She spent nights digging through old books. One night, she went to meet some sketchy dude with a Tupi artifact. Never came back. Her place was trashed, books ripped up, and one word scratched into the wall: amaldiçoada. By the time she hit 24, Isabella was a ghost of herself. Those hazel eyes, empty. Her body, frail as hell. She hadn't smiled in years. The asylum staff stayed clear, and her parents, worn out from grief, barely showed up. But the thing wasn't done. It started messing with others. Other patients had nightmares about a dark figure with red eyes. The asylum's lights flickered non-stop, and the air felt heavy, like something bad was always watching. One night, during a crazy storm, Isabella busted out. They found her room empty, door ripped off, and muddy footprints heading into the dark. She ended up back in the Serra da Cantareira, right where this whole nightmare kicked off. The forest felt wrong now, darker, like the trees were in on it. Rain was coming down hard, lightning flashing on bare branches. Isabella stood in a clearing, her clothes soaked, sticking to her bony frame. Then the white-haired lady showed up. Not real, but this ghostly flicker, like a dying candle. "You ain't getting away," she whispered, her voice mixing with the wind. Isabella dropped to her knees, her body shaking like crazy. The thing inside her roared, "You're mine!" She could feel it now, clear as day. This thing wasn't just in her, it was part of her, slinking through her thoughts, her blood, her bones. It showed her messed up visions, a Tupi village from way back, a ritual that went south, a spirit trapped with blood and betrayal. This wasn't just some demon, it was a forest guardian, twisted by human greed and set loose by that stupid Festa Antiga. It didn't just want Isabella as a puppet, it wanted her as a doorway to wreck the world. Back in São Paulo, her mom wasn't giving up. She heard about this group in Paraná called the Order of Light, a bunch of hardcore priests and nuns who dealt with exorcisms too wild for regular churches. They worked out of this old, falling-apart chapel in a nowhere village, a spot locals avoided, 'cause it was built on sacred Tupi ground. Her mom, desperate as hell, begged them to help. The order said yeah, but they were straight up. This spirit was a whole other level, not just evil, ancient, tied to the land, and not letting go of Isabella without a fight. They tracked her down in the forest, curled up in the mud, eyes black and blank. Getting her to Paraná was a shit show. She'd go dead quiet, then flip out, screaming in Tupi 1 minute, crying in her own voice the next. The car shook like something was shoving it, and the radio spat static mixed with creepy whispers. When they got to the chapel, the air stank of rot. No reason why. The order was ready, but even they could feel the heavy vibe of what they were up against. Man, the exorcism was a straight-up war zone, and it went down in this creepy old stone chapel in Paraná, walls scratched up with symbols, some Jesus-y, some looking like they were carved by folks who'd been dead for centuries. The 3 priests, Matias, Claudia, and Gabriel, knew they were stepping into some next-level shit. They were ready to fight for Isabella's soul, but you could tell they were sweating it, like they might not walk out alive. This thing inside her wasn't just some random demon. It was old, pissed, and not going anywhere without a brawl. The whole deal took 3 brutal days, each one feeling like a lifetime in hell. Day 1. They strapped Isabella to a heavy wooden chair with iron chains, her wrists and ankles locked so tight they were bruising already. The chapel was lit up with like 100 candles, but the flames kept flickering like they were scared, shitless. Matthias, the old dude with a face like weathered leather, kicked things off with the usual Catholic prayers, his voice steady, but his hands shaking like he knew what was coming. Isabella's body went wild. Her spine arched so far back, it looked like it'd snap. Her head twisting at angles that made your stomach churn. The thing inside her let out this roar. Nobody's locking me up. And it wasn't her voice. It was deep, growly, like it came from the bottom of a pit. Books flew off the shelves, slamming into walls, and the air got so cold you could see your breath. Claudia, this tough nun who didn't mess around, splashed holy water on Isabella, but it hissed and evaporated, leaving red welts that smoked like burns. The candles started going out, one by one, like the thing was sucking the light out of the room. Gabriel, the young guy, scrambled to relight them, his hands shaking so bad he dropped the matches twice. By the end of the day, they were all beat, sweating and pale, and the thing, it was laughing. This creepy-ass chuckle that echoed in their heads like it was inside their skulls. Bay 2. Claudia, who was like a nerd for ancient rituals, had dug up this old Tupi text from some dusty monastery vault. It was some shaman shit from way before the Portuguese showed up, meant to lock spirits away. She started chanting in Tupi, her voice loud and clear, even with the storm raging outside, thunder shaking the walls. Isabella went dead still, her black eyes drilling into Claudia like they could burn holes. For a hot second, it felt like it might work. Then Isabella's face split into this grin, way too wide, blood dripping from the corners of her mouth. "You think it's that easy, bitch?" the thing snarled, and the whole chapel shook like an earthquake hit. Windows exploded inward, glass flying everywhere, cutting Matthias's arm and nicking Claudia's cheek. This black shadow started forming above Isabella, all wiggly and wrong, like smoke with a mind of its own. And it had these glowing red eyes that made you wanna puke. Claudia kept chanting, her voice cracking from the strain, sweat pouring down her face. The shadow lunged at her, but Matthias threw up a cross, yelling some Latin prayer, and it backed off, hissing like a pissed-off snake. The thing wasn't done. It lifted Isabella's chair, chains and all, and slammed it into the floor, cracking the stone like it was nothing. The priests kept at it all night, their prayers barely holding back the darkness. Gabriel was pacing, muttering to himself, like he was psyching himself up for something big, thicker, stinking of rot and something sharp. like blood. By morning, they were half dead from exhaustion, and the thing was still there, mocking them with every word. Day 3. The storm outside was on another level. Lightning hitting so close, the chapel felt like it was gonna collapse. Rain pounding like it wanted to drown the world. The air inside was heavy, reeking of decay and this weird metallic tang, like you were breathing blood. Isabella was fading fast. Her skin was gray as ash. Her breathing so shallow, you could barely see her chest move. The thing was killing her from the inside, like it'd rather take her out than let her go. The priests were a mess. Matthias's voice was hoarse. Claudia's hands were trembling, and Gabriel, who'd been quiet this whole time, looked like he was carrying the weight of the world. They'd tried everything. Prayers, relics, even some Tupi chants, but the thing just kept getting stronger. You could feel it in the room, this heavy, suffocating vibe, like it was daring them to keep going. Matthias started with a new set of prayers. Ones he said were from the old days, meant for the worst of the worst. But the thing laughed, and Isabella's body started twitching, her head snapping back and forth like a broken doll. The chains groaned, like they were about to give. Claudia pulled out the Tupi text again, this time mixing it with some Catholic hymns, her voice shaking but fierce. The shadow above Isabella grew bigger, more solid, like it was done playing games. It had these jagged limbs, like branches made of darkness. And those red eyes burned so bright, they left spots in your vision. It lunged at Claudia again, and this time, it clipped her shoulder, leaving a gash that bled through her robe. Matthias shouted, holding up a crucifix, but the thing just swatted it away, sending it crashing into the wall. And Gabriel stepped up. He'd been quiet, just watching, praying under his breath like he was building up to something. He pulled out this silver sword, polished to a shine, blessed with holy water from some sacred spring deep in the mountains. He didn't read from a book or stick to some script. His words came from somewhere deep, raw and angry, like he was telling the thing to fuck off. "You got no claim here," he yelled, slamming the sword into the floor right in front of Isabella. The whole chapel shook, and this blinding white light shot out of her chest, so bright it hurt to look at. The thing screamed, a sound so loud it cracked the last windows and made your ears ring. The shadow turned into this massive, ugly-ass monster, all spiky limbs and a face that was just eyes and teeth. It went for Gabriel, claws out, but he didn't flinch, just kept chanting, his voice getting louder, like he was pulling strength from somewhere else. The light got brighter, swallowing the shadow, and the thing let out one last scream, like it was being ripped apart. Then, poof, it was gone, sucked into the light, like it never existed. Isabella dropped like a rag doll, barely breathing, but alive. When she opened her eyes, they were hazel again, wet with tears, and so tired you could feel it. For the first time in 7 years, she was herself. The priests, looking like they'd been through a war, dropped to their knees, praying their asses off in thanks. The storm outside died down, and the chapel went quiet. Just Isabella's soft sobs cutting through the silence. Isabella never really got back to normal, you know? Those 7 years left scars, not just the ones on her body, but deep in her head, her soul. The nightmares didn't just go away. They'd sneak up on her, waking her up in a cold sweat, heart pounding like she was still in that damn forest. She'd see flashes of those creatures from her dreams, those half-human, half-beast things, or hear that voice whispering her name in the dark. She stayed the hell away from forests, dark alleys, anything that felt too quiet or too wild. Even the sound of drums, like at a street festival, could make her freeze, her hands shaking like she was about to lose it. She went back to São Paulo, but she wasn't that sparkly girl who used to light up a room. Her hair, once all thick and curly, stayed thin and gray, like the life got sucked out of it. Her hazel eyes had this haunted look, like she was always waiting for something to jump out at her. She tried to pick up the pieces, got a small apartment, a job at a coffee shop where nobody asked too many questions. But people noticed she was off. Customers would say she'd zone out, staring at nothing, or drop a cup for no reason, her hands trembling. Her old life was gone. Her friends, scattered, or worse. Clara was still locked in her house, a shell of herself, too scared to even talk about what happened. Lucas was dead, that freaky car crash still unexplained. Sophia vanished, her apartment left like a crime scene, with that one word, amaldiçoada, carved into the wall. Isabella carried the guilt like a backpack full of bricks. She blamed herself for dragging her friends to that cursed party, for drinking that black shit from the bowl. She'd sit alone at night, replaying it all, wondering if she could have said no, walked away. Sometimes she'd wake up with dirt under her nails, like she'd been clawing at the ground in her sleep, and it scared her shitless that the thing might still be out there, watching. She started going to church, not the big fancy ones, but small ones, quiet ones, where she could light a candle and just sit. She'd pray for Matthias, Claudia, and Gabriel, the priests who risked everything to pull her out of hell. She even made the trip back to that Paraná chapel a few times, standing outside the creaky stone building, too spooked to go in, but needing to feel close to the place that saved her. The chapel itself was different now. Locals said it felt heavier, like the air was thicker after the exorcism. Some swore they saw shadows moving inside at night, or heard whispers in Tupi when no one was around. Isabella didn't talk about it, but she felt it too. Something lingering, like the thing left a piece of itself behind. She'd stand there, staring at the carved symbols on the walls, wondering if they were still holding it back, or if they were just decoration. Now, Matias had retired, too old and worn out from the fight. Claudia was still around, but she'd gone quiet, spending her days studying old texts, like she was scared the thing might come back. Gabriel, though, he was the one who kept in touch. He'd check on Isabella, send her letters, tell her to keep the faith. But even he admitted, late one night over coffee, that he still dreamed about those red eyes. Isabella tried to move on, but it was hard. She'd see things sometimes, a flicker in the corner of her eye, a shadow that moved too fast. She'd hear whispers in the wind, not words, just sounds, like the forest was still calling her. She got a tattoo of a cross on her wrist, hoping it'd keep her safe. But it didn't stop the feeling that something was out there, waiting. She'd drive miles out of her way to avoid the Serra da Cantareira. But sometimes, from a distance, she'd catch a glimpse of those dark trees, and her heart would race. It was like the forest was alive, watching her, daring her to come back. People in São Paulo started talking. The story of a menina amaldiçoada spread, turning into urban legend. Kids would dare each other to go to the forest, to find the spot where the Festa Antiga happened. Some said they saw the white-haired lady, her ghostly figure floating between the trees. Others said they heard drums in the distance, even though no one's thrown a party there since. Isabella hated the rumors, hated how her pain became a ghost story for drunk guys at bars. But she couldn't escape it. Every time she passed a church, she'd feel a pull, like she needed to go in and pray, just in case. She kept a journal, writing down everything: the party, the possession, the exorcism. She thought it'd help, like getting it out would make it less real. But reading it back just made her cry, her hands shaking as she wrote about the voices, the pain, the fear that it wasn't over. She burned the journal one night, watching the pages curl in the flames, hoping it'd burn the memories too. It didn't. She still felt marked, like the thing had left something inside her, a tiny seed of darkness that could grow again if she wasn't careful. So that's Isabella's deal. A girl who stumbled into a nightmare and barely made it out. She's still out there, living quiet, trying to forget. But every time she looks at those damn forests, she knows something's watching. Maybe the curse is gone. Maybe it's just chilling, waiting for its shot. You tell me, got the balls to hit up the Serra da Cantareira and find out what's lurking?